In a bold and unyielding address at the recent AES summit in Bamako, Captain Ibrahim Traore, the newly appointed rotating president of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, Confederation, has categorically rejected Nigeria's reported application to join the burgeoning regional bloc. This decision comes mere weeks after Ghana's unexpected alignment with the AES, a move that has sent shockwaves through West African geopolitics and highlighted the deepening fractures within the region. The AES, formally established as a confederation in July 2024 by Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, represents a radical departure from traditional West African alliances like ECOWAS. Born out of military coups in these nations between 2020 and 2023, the bloc was initially a defense pact under the Liptako Gourma Charter, aimed at combating jihadist insurgencies that have plagued the Sahel region for over a decade. Since then, it has evolved into a full-fledged confederation promoting sovereignty, economic self-reliance, and resistance to foreign influence, particularly from former colonial powers like France and their Western allies. Traore, who seized power in Burkina Faso in a 2022 coup and has since positioned himself as a Pan-African icon, assumed the AES presidency on December 24, 2025, succeeding Mali's Colonel Assimi Goïta. His inaugural speech emphasized large-scale, joint military operations against armed groups, the launch of a shared investment bank worth $895 million, and the introduction of unified passports and a confederation television station. But it was his pointed remarks on expansion that dominated headlines, especially in the wake of Ghana's recent overtures. Ghana's path to AES affiliation has been a surprising pivot. Long seen as a stable democracy with strong ties to Western institutions, Ghana began signaling interest in closer cooperation with the AES earlier in 2025. President John Dramani Mahama appointed a special envoy, a retired army officer and former national security chief, to engage with the Confederation, framing it as an effort to strengthen ties and advance Africa's sovereignty. By mid-2025, reports indicated high-level discussions, with Ghana participating in security dialogues and economic forums. Sources close to the AES suggest Ghana's inclusion was formalized in late November 2025, driven by shared concerns over regional instability and a desire to bridge the gap left by the AES's withdrawal from ECOWAS in January 2024. This move has been interpreted as Ghana hedging against isolation amid ECOWAS's internal crises, including sanctions on AES members that were later lifted under pressure. Nigeria's interest in the AES, however, tells a different story. Africa's most populous nation and economic powerhouse has historically positioned itself as a leader in West Africa, often aligning with global powers like the United States and France through military partnerships, counterterrorism initiatives, and economic agreements. In November 2025, amid the AU-EU summit, Nigerian officials, including Vice President Kashim Shettima, expressed openness and readiness to collaborate with the AES, rejecting foreign military bases on African soil while advocating for African-led solutions. This came against a backdrop of strained relations. Earlier in December, Burkina Faso accused Nigeria of violating its airspace, prompting a formal apology from Abuja. Additionally, tensions escalated when AES leaders alleged Ukrainian support for Sahel militants, leading to diplomatic breaks that indirectly implicated Nigeria due to its ties with Kyiv. Traore's rejection of Nigeria's bid was swift and scathing, delivered during a closed-door session at the Bamako summit and later echoed in public statements. Nigeria is a lion in sheep's clothing, Traore declared, according to AES insiders. They present themselves as brothers, but their alliances with the US and France run too deep. Our way of operative must be protected. Our policy must be protected. He went further, labeling Nigerian President Bola Tinubu as a puppet, suggesting that Abuja's leadership is beholden to Western interests, including IMF loans, military aid from the US Africa Command, AFRICOM, and French economic partnerships in the energy sector. Delving into the rationale, Traore's stance reflects the AES's core ideology, a zero-tolerance policy toward perceived neo-colonial entanglements. Nigeria's role in ECOWAS, where it has pushed for sanctions against AES nations post-coups, has long been a point of contention. Moreover, Nigeria's vast oil resources and strategic partnerships, such as the $13 billion Nigeria-Morocco gas pipeline backed by European investors, are viewed by AES hardliners as extensions of Western control. We cannot allow entry to those who invite the very wolves we have chased from our den, one AES official remarked anonymously, alluding to France's expulsion from Sahel bases in 2023 to 2024 and the US's subsequent withdrawal from Niger. The decision also underscores internal AES dynamics. With a combined population of over 70 million and vast mineral resources, including uranium in Niger and gold in Mali and Burkina Faso, the Confederation is prioritizing cohesion over expansion. Joint initiatives like the new investment bank and unified forces aim to build self-sufficiency, including nuclear deals with Russia and renewable energy projects. Ghana's inclusion, despite its pro-Western leanings, may have been a calculated exception, perhaps to counterbalance coastal influences and expand trade routes, but Nigeria's size and influence pose a risk of dominance or dilution. Geopolitically, this rejection amplifies West Africa's bifurcation. ECOWAS, once a 15-member bloc, now grapples with the AES's parallel structures, including free movement of goods and people among its members. Analysts point to broader implications. Could this push Nigeria closer to other alliances, like BRICS, where it has observer status aspirations? Or exacerbate tensions, as seen in recent U.S. travel bans on AES citizens, which Traore dismissed as irrelevant to sovereign states? Russia's growing footprint in the Sahel, providing military training and wheat supplies, contrasts sharply with Nigeria's Western-oriented security pacts, potentially setting the stage for proxy rivalries. Voices from across the continent are divided. Pan-African activists hail Traore's firmness as a stand for authenticity, while Nigerian commentators decry it as isolationist posturing. In Abuja, officials have yet to respond formally, but sources indicate diplomatic channels remain open amid ongoing regional talks. As the AES charts its course under Traore's leadership, questions linger about the bloc's sustainability amid jihadist threats, economic hurdles, and external pressures. Will Nigeria's exclusion spark reconciliation efforts, or deepen the divide? The story unfolds in a region where sovereignty battles are far from settled. As the dust settles from Captain Ibrahim Traore's resounding rejection of Nigeria's bid to join the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, Confederation, the Burkina Faso leader has escalated his rhetoric, extending a broad warning to any African nation perceived as a tool of Western control. Speaking at a post-summit press conference in Bamako, Traore framed the AES's stance as an unyielding defense of African sovereignty, declaring, "This rejection will also be applied to any country who's a tool of Western control in Africa. We fight this fight to the end. Africa must be liberated." He further emphasized that, for any country that's still under Neo-Colonialism will be scrap out any time they tried to join AES, using stark language that underscores the bloc's zero-tolerance policy toward external influences. This pronouncement builds on Traore's long-standing anti-imperialist ideology, which has defined his leadership since assuming power in Burkina Faso's 2022 coup. Drawing from a history of Pan-African resistance, echoing figures like Thomas Sankara, whom Traore often invokes, the captain has positioned the AES as a bulwark against what he calls imperialistic pressure. In previous speeches, Traore has lambasted the West for viewing Africa as an empire of slaves, a cliché he argues perpetuates exploitation through economic dependencies, military interventions, and puppet regimes. His latest warning amplifies this narrative, suggesting that the AES's vetting process for new members will rigorously scrutinize applicants' ties to powers like the United States, France, and the European Union. Delving into the implications, Traore's message resonates deeply within the context of West Africa's fractured alliances. The AES, now a confederation with unified military forces, the Forces Unies de l'AES, or FU-AES, comprising around 5,000 troops, a shared investment bank, and biometric passports, represents a deliberate pivot towards self-reliance. Formed after the three founding nations withdrew from ECOWAS in January 2024 amid disputes over coup-related sanctions, the bloc has prioritized combating jihadist groups like JNIM, Jamaat Nasr al-Islam wal Muslimin, through joint operations, while rejecting foreign bases and aid that come with strings attached. Traore's warning implies that expansion, such as Ghana's recent inclusion, will only occur if newcomers demonstrate genuine commitment to decolonization, including severing CFA franc dependencies, expelling foreign troops, and nationalizing resources like gold and uranium. Historically, Traore's rhetoric draws from a well of resentment toward neo-colonialism. In Burkina Faso alone, under his rule, French forces were expelled in 2023, and mining contracts have been renegotiated to retain more wealth domestically. Moves that have inspired similar actions in Mali and Niger. He has publicly questioned why Western powers don't want us to unite, accusing them of sowing division to maintain control over Africa's resources. This fight, he insists, is existential, either to unite forever against imperialism or be reduced to being slaves. Analysts note that such statements align with broader Pan-African movements, where leaders like Traore criticize institutions like the IMF and World Bank for imposing austerity measures that exacerbate poverty while benefiting multinational corporations. The warning scope extends beyond Nigeria, potentially targeting nations like Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, or even non-ECOWAS states with strong Western ties, such as Kenya or South Africa in broader continental contexts. For instance, Côte d'Ivoire's close military cooperation with France, hosting bases and joint exercises, could disqualify it under Traore's criteria. Similarly, Senegal's recent political shifts under President Bassirou Diomaye Faye have shown openness to AES collaboration, but lingering French economic influence might invite scrutiny. Speculation has long swirled about coastal countries joining the AES to provide sea access for the landlocked trio, with past intelligence hinting at nations like Togo or Guinea as potential candidates, provided they align ideologically. Traore's scrap-out phrasing, likely a reference to scrub out or erase, evokes a purging of neo-colonial elements, raising questions about how the AES might enforce this through diplomatic isolation or economic boycotts. Economically, the warning highlights the AES's push for autonomy, with initiatives like local resource processing and partnerships with Russia and China for military and infrastructure support. The bloc aims to bypass Western-dominated systems. Traore has seized gold shipments to fund arms purchases when Western suppliers refused, demonstrating a pragmatic defiance that could inspire or alienate others. However, challenges abound. Jihadist attacks, such as the recent siege in Bamako by al-Qaeda-linked groups, test the AES's effectiveness, while economic hurdles like inflation and food insecurity persist. Regionally, this stance could exacerbate divisions within ECOWAS, already weakened by the AES's parallel structures for free movement and trade. Pan-African activists praise Traore's boldness as a call for continental liberation, while critics in Western capitals label it isolationist, fearing it disrupts counter-terrorism efforts and resource flows. As Traore vows to sacrifice luxury for dignity under his 2026 presidency plans, the AES's trajectory hangs in the balance. Will this warning unify resistors or provoke backlash from excluded nations? The liberation narrative intensifies, but its outcomes remain uncertain in a continent grappling with old empires and new alliances. Mali's military leader, Colonel Assimi Goïta, took to the podium at the Bamako summit to unequivocally back Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traore's rejection of Nigeria's membership bid. Goïta, who recently handed over the rotating AES presidency to Traore on December 23, 2025, during the second session of the College of Heads of State, used his address to amplify the Confederation's anti-imperialist stance, warning that any nation serving as a tool of Western powers would face similar exclusion. Goïta's speech, delivered amid the launch of key AES initiatives like the Unified Television Station and the $895 million Confederal Investment and Development Bank, BCIDAES, was laced with vivid metaphors and unyielding resolve. Tinubu is a green snake in a green grass and must be cut off with every means necessary, Goïta declared, referring to Nigerian President Bola Tinubu in a proverbial warning against hidden threats. He continued, "Our achievements over the years must not be halted by any foreign spy, claiming they want to be part of us. No, it won't happen under my watch." These words echo the AES's foundational ethos of sovereignty and resistance, positioning Nigeria as emblematic of broader neo-colonial entanglements that the bloc seeks to eradicate. To understand the depth of Goïta's endorsement, one must trace his trajectory as a pivotal architect of the AES. Born in 1983, Goïta rose through Mali's military ranks, serving in elite units like the Special Forces and participating in counter-terrorism operations in the north. His ascent to power began with the 2020 coup against President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, amid widespread protests over corruption and insecurity. A second coup in 2021 solidified his role as interim president, where he has since navigated Mali through turbulent waters, including the expulsion of French forces in 2022 and the pivot toward Russian partnerships for military support. Goïta's leadership has been marked by a quiet yet resolute style, often described as action-oriented rather than charismatic, focusing on rebuilding Mali's armed forces and fostering regional unity. This backing of Traore is no mere formality. It reflects Goïta's long-standing commitment to Pan-African liberation. In past speeches, such as during the AES's inaugural summit in Niamey in July 2024, Goïta emphasized win-win partnerships based on sovereignty, rejecting Western-imposed models that he views as perpetuating poverty and dependency. He has repeatedly critiqued former colonial powers, stating at the recent Bamako summit that former, powerful nations are the real poor for their reliance on African resources. His rhetoric aligns seamlessly with Traore's, as seen in joint appearances where both leaders have decried media terrorism and economic sabotage from external actors. Goïta's support for Traore dates back to the AES's formation, where Mali's interventionist stance, threatening war with ECOWAS to defend Niger post-2023 coup, paved the way for the Confederation's existence. Delving deeper, Goïta's warning against green snakes, like Tinubu, taps into a rich vein of African proverbial wisdom, symbolizing deceitful entities that blend into their surroundings. Here, Nigeria's dual role as a regional giant with deep US and French ties. Nigeria's involvement in ECOWAS sanctions against AES nations in 2024, its military partnerships with AFRICOM, and recent airspace violations over Burkina Faso have fueled suspicions of espionage and proxy maneuvers. Goïta's phrase, "cut off with every means necessary," evokes Malcolm X's famous call for self-defense, underscoring the AES's readiness for high-intensity conflict if needed. He has boasted of the Confederation's military capabilities, noting in a recent ORTM interview that the AES is equipped not just for counterterrorism but for broader warfare, with unified forces like the 5,000-strong Forces Unis de l'AES, FU AES, ready to deploy. The speech also highlights Goïta's role in countering three types of threats: armed terrorism, economic terrorism, and media terrorism. Under his AES presidency, initiatives like the BCID AES Bank aim to break free from IMF and World Bank dependencies, while the new AES TV and Radio Donde Liptako combat disinformation. Goïta's insistence that our achievements must not be halted by any foreign spy points to fears of infiltration, especially from nations like Nigeria, which has been accused of harboring Western-backed elements amid Ukraine-related tensions in the Sahel. This paranoia is rooted in real events: Mali's severance of ties with Ukraine in 2024 over alleged support for militants, and ongoing jihadist sieges that test the bloc's resilience. Goïta's endorsement extends the AES's ideological firewall, potentially barring other ECOWAS holdouts like Côte d'Ivoire or Senegal, where French influence lingers through military bases and economic pacts. His phrase, "under my watch," signals personal accountability, even post-presidency handover, as he remains Mali's head of state until planned 2026 elections. Social media reactions from Pan-African activists hail this unity, with posts praising the radical Goïta alongside the orator Traore and the experienced Nigerian General Abdurrahmane Tiani as an unbeatable trio. Yet, critics in Western circles decry it as isolationist, warning of economic fallout amid Russia's growing nuclear and wheat deals in the region. As Goïta's words reverberate, they intensify debates on West Africa's future. Will this solidify the AES as a sovereign powerhouse or provoke further fragmentation? The Confederation's path forward, now under Traore with Goïta's staunch support, promises more confrontations in the quest for liberation.